Welcome to Fast Pace, the new growth, leadership and management podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Dean Mackie. We wanted to peel back the layers on what happens in the world of fast-paced real estate agencies, from new leadership models to the management challenges we all face each day. This is about a new era in the estate agency sector. Rapid changes to business models, service lines, remuneration and growth present the greatest opportunities that we've ever seen. Sit back, get inspired, grow your skills and reimagine what's possible with Fast Pace. Every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Josh Phegan Digital. It's amazing to kind of watch that we've been through an incredible decade of what we almost call free money. And it was amazing to see all of these incredible tech businesses that, you know, Dean, they had almost no responsibility to have to turn a profit. And they could just employ people and put people on and venture capitalists and another round of funding and a whole range of things, not just in prop tech, but around the technology sector, you know, particularly out of what's happening. And Dean, what we've started to see as we kick off into that 2023 era is all of a sudden that world has completely changed. And we're hearing about lots and lots of layoffs, you know, from places like what's happening at Amazon to Goldman Sachs to you name it, like literally Twitter and Facebook and all of that, like, you know, 5, 10, 18, 20,000 people being laid off inside of their workforces. Salesforce came out the other day. They said 10% of their workforce gone. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see the layoffs in real estate, but how many do you think people just won't be able to survive or won't thrive in this new era, won't adapt, and ultimately will naturally fall out of industry as the volumes, you know, drop or move around in terms of number of transactions? Will it happen, what's happening in the tech sector, to what's happening inside of the real estate space?
Well, mate, first thing to qualify any answers, I don't have a crystal ball, but...
Come on.
mate, the old two-handed economist, eh?
Yeah.
Look, there's no doubt that when things are under pressure in the macroeconomic environment, that certainly, and short-term supply issues, and you know, there's been a whole bunch of stuff in the last few years that's put a lot of pressure on the availability of money. But you know, we've all been surprised that COVID period things boomed, and there's lots of crypto money and all that sort of stuff was floating around. I do think things are coming. Things are going to be a little bit. Little bit harder for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And in everyone's business, if your business drops off in volume, then and of course everyone then tries to outcompete each other on fee and marketing and all this stuff. It almost becomes, and the margins get really tough. You know, everyone then starts to go, well, hold on a minute. You know, that's going to affect my value. This is going to affect valuations. It's going to affect all sorts of things in your business. And
some of these business models will come under pressure, right, where there's potentially higher fee splits and things where they would cover the overheads.
The business model is going to be under pressure. You've got to find a balanced business model, because if it's just paying an agent a big fee and then the actual fee to the customer's dropping, and there's different things that are going on, it's just unsustainable to provide an infrastructure that makes sense. And I'm seeing it already. I'm seeing lots of people in the marketplace, some bigger and some actually smaller, going, do you know what? I've seen some P&Ls that I go, geez, you're actually making a loss every single month. And they say, yeah, I know, I can't wait to get out. How do I get out of this, right? Because people haven't really looked hard enough at how they get themselves into a scalable, efficient model working in a smarter way. But increasingly, I think the world is pushing us in a direction to actually go, you have to get more efficient. You have to build scale. You have to invest money to get a return. You can't just wing it anymore. And I think the demands from the customer and also the agents themselves are becoming so high that I think and then when you combine that with volumes going down and all that sort of stuff, there's definitely going to be a lot of people under pressure and already under pressure. And you know, I sort of look at the volume transactions that I expect to see drop off, and I expect that 20 to 30% of the current real estate industry will either disappear or merge into other businesses, right? So there's a lot. I think you'll see a lot of merging going on. I mean, in terms of the layoffs, though, right? I get that, you know, real estate businesses and people, you know, it's undergoing change for good reason, right? It's probably been inefficient for some time, and the model hasn't changed a hell of a lot. And the technology, even though there's been little bits of technology come about that sort of improve little bits of the process, there hasn't been anything that's really come along that's revolutionised the whole lot, right? And so bit by bit, the business, people are getting much smarter in terms of how they run their business. You know, I guess some people went offshore, some people are bringing stuff back onshore because the labour cost of the dollar and all so that ebbs and flows. There is definitely some technology implemented correctly can make some significant differences in terms of efficiency and back end, and can be really helpful in terms of lead gen. And then that means that there is definitely pressure on certain roles in the business that are no longer needed or warranted, right? I also think, there's technology at the moment that's allowing me to rethink even our property management space because, a lot of time you've got property managers being spent on things like maintenance and all that. That sort of thing is becoming a lot of self-service. In fact, a lot of that can be automated. And then you start thinking, well, hold on, what then is the role of a property manager? And then what do they do? How they need to service the customer? What does the tenant really want? What does the landlord want? But we've been living in this model that's been stuck in a particular way for quite some time. So I think what we're seeing at the moment in our industry, and I think change doesn't necessarily happen until change is forced because, like we've said before, the pain of change has to outweigh. The benefit of change has to outweigh the pain of that change. So I think, but still a lot of people don't want to proactively make that. But I think there's a number of factors that are making it easier and also forcing people, just because their margins are under pressure, to rethink their business, whether they want to be in it, whether they need those staff, whether they should merge with another business. All of those questions are going on at the moment. And I think it's great. I think it's actually, in my view, I think it will allow or will force the industry to improve our services, to create new roles, right? So, for example, the way we've got a concierge team now in our business, that increasingly we're finding that all roads lead back to concierge. There are roles in our business, and my concierge team's growing, but there are other roles that then become potentially not needed. So on one hand, while I'm maybe removing or reinventing a role, I'm inventing and creating a new role, right? So I'm not really seeing it all about dropping people off. It's about new roles. Well, for example, as we get further and further into data, I then have to have a team of people that actually manage the data and the effectiveness of that data, right? So then you end up with, and then I also have to bring in data coaches into the business and things like that, right? So I think...
So Dean, while we were talking, I just, and you saw me play on my phone for 2 seconds.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I went into ChatGPT and I just said to it, can you just write me a paragraph on the Fast-Paced podcast with Dean Mackie and Josh Phegan? And so it said, the Fast-Paced podcast with Josh Phegan and Dean Mackie is a must listen for real estate professionals, unpacking innovative ideas, sharing insightful stories and providing practical tips. Two experienced real estate agents bring in an entertaining and educational format to the podcast with topics that range from best practice management, marketing trends, and new technology. Listeners come away with fresh insights and real estate perspectives. Phegan and Mackie's enthusiasm about real estate is infectious, and their commitment to helping others succeed makes Fast-Paced podcasts an invaluable resource.
That's a pretty good write-up, mate. We couldn't have written that ourselves. My God.
So I actually read this book.
I wonder if it's all true.
But I actually read this book about inflation, a new one that came out. Herman Schiller, I think, the guy who wrote the book, the Confessions of a Pricing Man, over the break. And he said the way that you deal with inflation is not just through price increases. You deal with it through productivity and you deal with it through actually thinking about things in different ways. Yeah. And it's not just about efficiency. It's actually about effectiveness and using technology in a smart way. So there I am. I'm on the holiday break. I'm like, I need to write some copy for Fast-Paced. Man, I just wrote it with us. And that was done whilst we're in the podcast in a couple of seconds. So if you have a look at it, Microsoft is now looking at an investment into ChatGPT. Yep. They say that that's going to have a massive threat to the entire Google search model this year, because all of a sudden what it can do and what it can produce. And it's not going to replace our jobs, but I tell you what, that's just made writing the copy for this podcast a lot easier. So from that perspective, it's about what is the technologies that are actually going to allow us better efficiencies, better effectiveness with our people, and actually now saying how we go and apply that so it can actually get us doing the things that we really need to do, which is helping buyers and sellers to move. And also too, helping landlords and tenants to arrive at a fair and equitable price and make all that sort of stuff happen. And I think that's the really important part is that, for where your business is going to go next, will we see layoffs? Absolutely. But you know what, if you are good at what you do, you'll never, ever, ever replace that, providing hospitality.
We're in the people game, right? So, I think when you've got high value, emotive, stressful transactions, people are always going to be needed, right? But it's just that how and where do you apply that human capital to give the customer the best experience? That's what's going to change, right? I'm seeing, we've invented roles in the organisation that are highly specialised that never existed before to provide the customer a better experience. But it's because we've been able to reinvent due to the fact that we put in better systems or technology or process, right? And I think that's the key for all of us, is to not be. There's always going to be business change, and you hear about layoffs, but it's just all cyclical. So if you're happy to get out there and reinvent and focus on how you can do it better, you'll find there are roles that you've got that are needed in your business that you currently don't have, that you can reallocate resource to.
And Dean, potentially because some of that new tech area was really overfunded with lots and lots of VCs, and money was really cheap. Yeah. There was no requirement for profit, and now what the VCs are saying is, well, we actually want you to have one.
Yeah, just think about it. I mean, there's a lot of businesses out there running for numbers of years, and they're doing it on revenue with the no requirement to make profit. Well, I tell you what, I'd be, my business. I imagine that if you could run your business for 5 years with no profit, like seriously, like it seems unreal, and it probably has been for quite some time.